You're a jackass.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin, alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man.
You jackass.
We have a beautiful start. We have a beautiful time tonight. How was your fucking great week, man?
It was a great weekend for football. Although my Ravens were not playing, there was a lot of fantastic games this past week. What do you think?
I think it was great, but before we get into that, I believe there is a big elephant in the room again from the offseason. I'm going to give the condolences out to the family and the victim of the accident from Henry Ruggs.
Mm-hmm.
Truly unfortunate situation what's going on. For those who don't know, he was involved in a very lethal car accident, and he's now been charged with a DUI leading to death, sentenced for 2 to 20 years at the moment, and more charges to come. You could read further on other links, articles, whatever you guys want, but I just wanted to give our condolences for the entire situation.
Yes, that is a story that everyone should keep their eye out for, because it is truly a tragedy what Henry Ruggs and that entire event happened. But with that being said, we did have some other news in regards to trades and the trade deadline.
Yes, the trade deadline did happen, and in the past 24 to 48 hours, my God, some moves have been made. First one, and I think it's maybe the biggest one of the trade deadline, Von Miller joins the Rams.
Yeah, Von Miller already joins an elite defense and just double stacking it. And there's a specific theory onto why, but we're going to get into that later. We're going to be talking some Rams later on in this episode.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
But who else was traded on the deadline?
The Broncos, they traded what was his name? Harvey Vincent to Philly for, I believe it was a 6th-round draft pick. It was an old tight end, I believe.
Okay.
Chiefs, they picked up Melvin Ingram from the Steelers, unfortunately. Yeah. A little sour at that one because, I bought a jersey.
It's a solid jersey, though, but it's number 8.
Right.
You gotta go with 8s, baby.
And Jalen Smith was waived from Green Bay. He only played a couple of snaps, interestingly enough. He only played 8 snaps or something like that. He played under 10 snaps for Green Bay, and then they waived him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's now back on the market.
So it's going to be interesting to see who moves around. And is there any more that you could think off the top of your head?
The last one that really rings any type of bell, and it's unfortunate because of due to injury, it's Adrian Peterson is now back in the league and on the Titans. Because Derrick Henry is out for the rest of the season with a broken foot. He actually just had surgery the other day, and it was a success.
Good.
But he will be out for the remainder of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adrian Peterson is back in the league, ladies and gentlemen.
Adrian Peterson is back in the league, and he is another person that we are going to be talking about later, because that Rams-Titans primetime game is one for the ages, and we're going to be talking about that later on. But before we get to any of that, I want to recap some of the games that happened this past week, and we had a lot of good ones. So, Chris Palmer, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so what were your thoughts on Kyler Murray and succumbing to the Green Bay Packers 24-21, and AJ Green just did not pick up the audible? Your thoughts on that?
Again, we were talking about it last week. That was one of the games that we spoke about. It was, if they were to lose a game, I'm going to keep saying it up until their Week 12 bye week, this was the game where they were going to lose. And it came down to the last play. So they definitely could have won that game. I'm not going to point fingers to say whose fault it was. It was a clear-cut miscommunication, either on a hot route, on a regular route, what have you, whatever it was. Something was supposed to happen, and it didn't. And the defenseman made a good play. Can't think of the name, but I do know for a fact that he was on Arizona 3 weeks prior on the practice squad. Green Bay picked him up, and he got the game-winning interception. So that was I could see him leaving the field with a chip on his shoulder, kind of for the rest of the season. First interception of my career on a new team is against my old team at the end of a game to seal the deal.
Yep, and what a game it was.
What a game.
It was a very wild game, but I want to move on to Carolina and Atlanta. Carolina defeating the Atlanta Falcons 19-13. So tell me, is Atlanta just going to be tanking the rest of the year?
Again, we spoke about them. We've been talking about them pretty frequently. I know you have a soft spot for Atlanta, but the reality of it is they're one of those teams that you can't really put your finger on. It's how are they going to come out and play? Are they going to play right? Are they not going to play right? Which is more so what they have been doing. Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. Of course, he's a shining light in Atlanta right now.
Mm-hmm.
What they need to do is move on from Matt Ryan. I've been saying it since the beginning. They need a quarterback that's not Matt Ryan. Just like the Titans need a quarterback that's not Ryan Tannehill.
Well, speaking of the Titans actually beat the Colts this past week, 34-31 in overtime. But unfortunately, it came with a heavy cost of losing Derrick Henry for pretty much the whole season.
Yes.
So your thoughts on that, Chris Paul?
Again, thoughts are out to Derrick Henry. Hope he recovers well. We'll see you next year. There goes my bold 2,000-yard thing. I want to put that
He
one
was
out there
on
now.
pace for it.
He was definitely on pace.
He was on a historic pace.
Correct. This was going to be one of the greatest showings of running back we would ever see in our lifetime this season, potentially. Unfortunately, that's going to be put on pause. And with seeing how he is as an athlete, I could see this injury, him coming back just as good, if not better. For some reason, all the great athletes, when they get injured, they come back better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have high hopes for him. When it comes to Tennessee, like I just said, that team is good. They're in that group of teams where they need to move on from that quarterback that they have to get into the next step of competition
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to compete for maybe a division or for maybe a wild card spot versus just playing not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where the Titans, I would think, are at now.
Well, we're gonna talk more about the Titans going forward because it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan is for the Titans against probably the fiercest competition that they're going to play so far.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an absolute slugfest in that game, and we're going to get more into that later on. But I want to move on to Buffalo and Miami, and Buffalo kind of putting the dagger in Miami late in the game to win it 26-11. But we were having our eye on that game. We were kind of watching that game, and it felt very like a stalemate, essentially, for a majority of the game. But good teams play their best football at the end, like when it counts the most. And although Miami was able to go, it was not a shutout. It was not a shutout like it was. And they were pretty much in the game majority of the time. But Buffalo stepped up when they needed to and were able to kind of take the win.
Yeah, Buffalo is one of those teams that just have a gas tank that doesn't run out. And until Miami fixes the problems that they have, the running game, the middle linebackers, the offensive line, until they get at least one piece in each of those areas, they're not going to be able to keep up with a team that has multiple pieces in multiple areas. So I give them all credit in the world for making it a fight for 2.5 to 3 quarters. I'll give them a full first half. They played and they fought.
Mm-hmm.
Into the third quarter, you started seeing it happen.
Yep.
You started seeing the people slow down. You started seeing the head started to sink. You started seeing them starting to breathe heavy. And you see Buffalo, they're still ready to stand and bang. So you come in gassed against a Buffalo team that can just keep going. They showed it exactly what they're going to do. They're going to put their foot to your throat and they're going to put you away.
Absolutely. But I want to move on to the upset of the week. I don't even have to look at what it is. The Cincinnati Bengals losing to the New York Jets. That's right. The New York Jets played an incredible game, I would say.
Yeah.
They had to overcome 2 bad picks where it's like, oh, man, Jets are going to jet. It bounces both times off of the receiver's fingers, and they had to overcome that, get the lead, take the lead, and stop. It was an incredible watch. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I have some thoughts on you. Put some respect on this man's name. His name...
What's his name?
Mike White.
Tell
Mike
everyone.
White, AFC Offensive Player of the Week, threw for 400 yards plus.
Ooh.
Only one other quarterback has done that in a rookie debut. I didn't look up who it was, But a New York Jet did it, goddammit. That's all you need to know, is Mike White did it. He also, interestingly enough, 3 years ago, he put a tweet out for Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. He said, hate to break it to you, I'm going to break your record. This man played an incredible, incredible football game. I'm excited for Mike White. That was an exciting outing. It
was an exciting outing, but
it's always good to see the Bengals lose too.
It is so great to see the Bengals, and I'm so happy that they lost because the Ravens took the lead in the division without having to play a game, which is
there's always that too.
So with that, I'm very happy. But I gotta say, Mike White, kudos to you. You absolutely deserve to be the player of the week. Hell, Madden put him at 89 overall.
No, they did not.
Yeah, they did.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they did.
Shout out Mike White.
It's higher than my Lamar Jackson at my quarterback, but moving on. I want to move on to your Steelers defeating the Cleveland Browns 15-10, a very low scoring affair. But tell me, what did you like out of that game?
You know, I liked, again, we had a very solid mix-up between run and pass. Mm-hmm. Our passes were great. You know, I watched Ben play a very full game, you know. Had a couple of mishaps. Again, it happens. The defense is a top 10 defense that he's playing. You know, Cleveland's is ranked number 6 in pass rush. So they're incredible on defense. But we are also very stout on defense. That's why it was a low-scoring bout. It wasn't the teams playing wrong. We stopped them 3 different times on 4th down.
Yep.
They stopped us twice on 4th down. So it was a very neck-and-neck, very physical. It was a dogfight, and that's really what you expect out of the AFC North.
Yep.
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see more competition coming out of more than just the Ravens.
Exactly.
You know, as much as I love our rivalry, and we'll get into that when we play each other, I love seeing it. I love watching the competition coming out of Cleveland. However, I want you to know that was Ben Roethlisberger's 50th win coming out of Ohio.
Yeah, we thought Aaron Rodgers owned Chicago,
but Roethlisberger owns Ohio.
He owns a whole state. I mean, that's enough said right there. He might as well just take his claim at that point. But regardless, it was a good win for your Steelers, and I got to say the magic number: 30 pass attempts to 20 rushing attempts,
98 yards as well.
Split the load.
Yes.
And that's what the Steelers need to be doing. And I'm glad to see that Mike Tomlin is starting to commit to running the ball. And it's great to see because it's exactly how the Steelers are always thought to have played, where it's strong defense, smash down football. But if you sleep on us, we're going to hit you over the top.
We're going to punch you in the mouth.
And we're going to hit you over the top with some stellar receivers.
And again, I told you it was going to take upwards of 5 weeks to get an established running game and sift out and trim out all the bad pass plays that we have. Look what happened week 5.
Yeah, and now
we came in with a run game.
Yep.
Now it's week 8 going into week 9, and we have a well-established run game with one of the nastiest rookies. On top of going to give a shout-out, sorry for going in on the Steelers, Fairmouth, man. Rookie tight end. Man, we have 2 rookies right now that are playing out of their minds right now.
Man, for those who did not see it,
Fryermuth.
Okay.
Let's call him Friar Tuck.
Fryermuth. He had a catch in the back of the end zone, which was absolutely incredible.
Unbelievable.
It was one of those really tough physical games that you like to see out of the AFC North, and I just hope that the Steelers commit to running the ball in every game going forward.
I'm confident that we will.
I hope that they do. But I want to move on to the other team in Pennsylvania, and that is the Eagles defeating the Lions 44-6. I'm just not picking the Lions anymore. I have no faith in them anymore. But I don't even know why I had faith in them. But
yeah, I don't understand. You freaking blew me so far out of my
I thought I was smelling something. I was probably smelling some burnt toast from the stroke that I was having.
What you're smelling is the stroke that's happening in Detroit right now.
Oh my God. It's
seeping over here.
Yeah.
From Michigan to New York, it is seeping over here.
I smell it.
The barn fire that is Detroit right now.
It was an absolute nasty game, but I gotta say, it wasn't broadcasted within our area, but seeing the highlights and watching like what happened and looking at the stats is like I liked the way Philly won that game. And we're going to get more into that because we're going to be talking about Philly later on. But they ran the ball
a lot.
And it was scary. But I actually want to move on to the Rams defeating the Houston Texans 38-22. Now, at a certain point, they were up 38-0. And then you blinked, and then Houston scored 22 points. Not that it meant anything at that point in time, but
that one, they were up 38-0 with 11 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
So they scored 22 points in 6 minutes because it was a screenshot. I saw it with 3 minutes left. It was 38-22. Mm-hmm. They scored 22 points in 6 minutes. Pretty incredible. But you also got to remember, it is so far into garbage time, just about every single starter was out of there.
Yeah, so it was completely a moot point for Houston to score because it meant nothing. But I mean, they're trying.
Moral victories mean nothing.
There are no moral victories in Houston. But I want to move on to the 49ers and Chicago. And the 49ers took care of business, 33-22 over the Bears. Tell me, did you like anything that you saw out of the Bears last week?
I did. At one point they were up 22-0. And then they stopped scoring completely. It was promising to a point, and then, again, Kyle Shanahan's the better coach. He goes, sit down. Mm-hmm. And the whole team decided to wake up, and they played really well. I liked a lot more out of San Francisco than I did out of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Chicago is going to be more of a hard-fought climb, I think. It's not going to be as easy of a slide into their young rookie like it was with Arizona with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is unbelievably special. Justin Fields, it remains to be seen. He's going to be one of those slow marinating quarterbacks like Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. Took Derek Carr, this is now his 5th year?
Seventh year?
7th year. So it took probably about his 5th, even up until now. Mm-hmm. He started coming into his own at his 5th, 6th, he was a little bit better, and now he's playing really well. I can see Justin Fields taking probably about that same amount of time before he reaches his stride, especially in Chicago with, again, all the flaws that they have on that offensive line.
Mm-hmm. It's a rough environment for Justin Fields to be in at this point in time, but I want to move on to some other rookie quarterbacks that actually had to go against one another, and that was Mac Jones and the Patriots. And actually, I'm sorry, only just the one. I was mistaken. Justin Herbert is a sophomore. But the Patriots defeat the Chargers 27-24. The Chargers fought, but you and I, we were talking about this before. They just can't seem to close the deal. And they just can't seem to really control the game and play their best in the fourth quarter when they need to the most. Your thoughts on the Chargers?
Yeah, that's kind of been the ongoing theme the past couple weeks with the Chargers, is that they play great until there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then you start seeing some ugly decisions come from that offense. First off, going to give a shout-out to Austin Eckler. That man is such a tank. To be his size and to be that strong, it shouldn't be allowed. He is so unbelievably strong. He moved 2 full-grown offensive lines about 4 or 5 yards for a touchdown. He's 5'7", yeah. 5'8", $165. He moved a couple of tons worth of man.
Yeah.
So he is unbelievably strong. But I gotta tell you, when I was watching these highlights, I kept turning and looking at Mac Jones. My focus would be okay, I have to focus on the Chargers. And then I would just start watching the Patriots and enjoying. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying what I see out of Mac Jones a lot. Give him about 4 years, man. He's going to be a real solid quarterback.
He is looking very comfortable in that New England offense, and he's probably in the best environment for any rookie to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Because we speak about Justin Fields he's behind such a bad offensive line, but Mac Jones, on the flip side, is so privileged to be in such a well-oiled machine
Yeah.
already. So it's like he has a great offensive line. Although he does not have he does not have playmakers around him. He does have a really good running game behind him. I got to say, Damian Harris is one of those running backs that I noticed him last year, and I was like, damn, he's special.
Yes.
He is special, and he's another one of those physical running backs that is not afraid to
Get down and get
to drop the shoulder on a defender, and it's so great to watch.
It's really an enjoyment to watch north-south running come back into the league where people really aren't afraid to get physical. They're really trying to, from what it looks like, they're trying to put down that unnecessary roughness gray area where if it's like on the defense, if it's any type of initiated contact leading that looks to be leading with your head, it's going to be a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense is taking the initiative and they're like, I'm going to initiate contact. And they're going to challenge the referees to call it on the offense, which they still aren't doing. But at some point, I can see this whole unnecessary roughness gray area to really be almost more direct to, if it's so clear that I have to call it, if it's going to be clear-cut contact that ends, like in the Jets-Bengals game, it was Carter, the running back for the Jets, and I think it was either a cornerback or a safety. They collided on mutual contact, and you saw they were both just going in for a hit, and their helmets collided. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's just body placement.
I think that was Von Bell.
Possibly.
Yep.
And they both knew that the penalty was coming. They both shook their heads. They both looked at each other, shook hands, and hugged because that's just the way the game is. The game is physical. For those who play football, know it just happens. You don't aim for it because we all know you can get seriously injured that way. We don't aim for it. Those who do are called headhunters and they don't belong in the league. But it happens. So you can't throw a penalty and pause the entire momentum of the game because of something that happens in the interim of the game. And I feel like the north-south running is going to start to really make it more clear and cut as to what is an unnecessary roughness and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. And that is something to look at going forward, what the referees deem contact against an offensive player. But I want to move on to a team that actually does like to run the ball north-south, and that is Seattle Seahawks defeating the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-7. Your thoughts on Seattle getting it done with Geno?
I feel like, again, that has to more so do with coaching than who's at the helm. You know, he's more of a spot holder till Russell Wilson comes back. Everyone knows it. But until then, you know, he's going to do what he needs to do. He is a professional. He knows the playbook. He's been there for, I think, 2 years now, playing underneath Russell Wilson, of course, but he's still on the practice squad.
Yeah.
He still runs the scout teams. He still runs the plays. So he knows the playbook. He studies the playbook. He may not have always been the best, but he's always been a smart quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
May not know how to keep his mouth shut, but, you know, he knows the game. So he knows it well enough to get it done when it needs to be done. He knows when he can take the helm. He knows what's outside his boundaries as well. And that's really what makes him the better of the backup quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. That he knows his limits. So he's like, I'm not going to do this. I will hand it off here. Yeah. You know?
Oh, I absolutely do know. And I want the other backup quarterback to go exactly as you said before. Trevor Simeon. Getting it done for the Saints. Unfortunately, Jameis Winston is done for the year. And against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Saints managed to beat the Buccaneers 36-27. But man, it came at the cost of Jameis Winston, who was playing pretty well. But Trevor Simeon, he got it done. And for those of you who do not know, Trevor Simeon, he was a backup / starter on Denver. He started a couple games, but mostly a backup on Denver for a couple years ago. I think it was probably about 3-4 years ago, near the end of
something like that. Yeah,
in the vacancy of Peyton Manning leaving Denver.
Right. That was right before Paxton Lynch.
No, I think Paxton Lynch was drafted when Peyton Manning was still there, but I'm not. But regardless. He is a former Bronco. He's been in this league, and he got his opportunity to go against the Saints and beat the Buccaneers. Now, I want to, for those of you who do not see the game, there was something that was absolutely incredible to watch. And the Saints go up 29-27 with like less than 2 minutes in the game, probably just about a minute left in the game. Buccaneers just need 3 to win the game. So you're thinking, oh shit, it's Brady. Brady's going to Brady. He's going to do. He's going to do
about
Brady
to Brady
things.
the Saints.
And 2 plays in, pick 6.
Oh shit!
And it was an incredible sight to see because you never see it. In all the years of watching Tom Brady, like he in the last 2 minutes, he gets it done. Like
Right. He is the put
like that. He's made a whole career of getting it done in the fourth quarter and getting the score when it needs to in clutch time. And so he's made a career of that. And for him to throw a pick 6, and that was one hell of a read by the defender. And it put the dagger, and that was it.
Well, the one thing to your point, but also on the opposite side of that coin, he's been doing it for so long. You got a lot of studying.
Oh, absolutely.
So you get the right mind to come in and look at all of those passes that you've thrown on film. He's going to read you like an open book.
Oh.
And a pick 6 proves that man did his homework
Yep.
as to how you're going to throw it, when you're going to throw it, and who you're going to throw it to. And he decided to read it and take it home and send it away.
Yep.
So my hat's off. Hats off to that.
It was an incredible game to watch. I implore anyone to look at the highlights if you have not already. But I want to move on to the Denver Broncos defeating the Washington football team 17-10, low-scoring affair. But tell me, how do you think the Broncos are going to be looking without Vaughn going forward?
I feel like that was a real dumb decision for this season. I mean, is his contract really that expensive that you had to dump him? You know,
Well, they're looking to rebuild.
I get they're looking to rebuild, but again, is his contract that extensive? If it was that extensive, why'd you make an extension a couple of years back? You know, at that point, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Well, because they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
And they weren't going to deny him after
No,
that.
they're not going to deny him, but that was the last extension that he had, so then he's got to be almost out of his contract.
He is. I think he's probably got a year or 2 left on his contract. So, but with that being said, he's in the perfect spot. But for the Broncos, it's going to be tough sledding for them going forward because although it seems that a lot of teams are starting to come down to earth in their division, such as the Raiders are playing well, but they're coming down to earth. We had them pretty high going when they were 3-0. And the Chiefs are proving that
They're
they're
starting
mortal.
to sink.
They're bleeding, and gods don't bleed.
Shut up, you.
Well, with that being said, and the Chargers they're not closing games that they should. And with that being said, the Broncos can compete. They're kind of in that gray area where they can kind of compete, but their defense is not going to be the same. Although I did like what I saw on defense. There was a lot of good defensive personnel making plays, especially at the line of scrimmage. They got a really good defensive line, and they attack. It's just now they're not going to have any depth at linebacker or their secondary. So it's going to be tough sledding for them going forward. But I want to move on to the primetime game, which was Cooper Rush and defeating the Minnesota Vikings 20-16. Cooper Rush, tell me, did you see that Amari Cooper catch in the end zone? How beautiful was that?
It was art. It's really what it was. It was art. Amari Cooper is one of the more slept on and underrated wide receivers in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Only those who really know the game of football know that Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some of the tightest hands in the game. He doesn't drop a freaking pass. But on the flip side, I want to talk about Minnesota for a second. They're one of those teams that I was talking about earlier that if they had any other quarterback, they would be able to contend for something more than just playing not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
All respect to Kirk Cousins, man. He plays well enough to get it done sometimes. They need someone else. That team overall is too good to have Kirk Cousins behind the helm.
Mm-hmm.
You give them anyone else. You give them Trevor Lawrence, that's a scary team.
I don't know about that.
I don't know, man. You give Trevor Lawrence a couple weapons that know what they're doing. Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook,
Justin Jefferson.
That's okay to me.
It's a good thought experiment. It really is.
Because things to think about, ladies and gentlemen.
Things to think about. But I got to say, the Vikings are, again, one of those teams where they don't do good in primetime because when they're in primetime, they're always against the better competition.
Right.
And this year, Dallas just is better competition.
They're some of the best this season.
They are playing unbelievable. And even though they did not have a turnover against the Vikings, they played very buttoned up. And they were able to contain them to only 16 points.
Yeah.
And it's something to say. I think that's more of a Dallas win than it is a Vikings loss because I think Dallas just outplayed the Vikings. And looking at it too, the Vikings, and we're going to talk more about the Vikings because they play the Ravens this upcoming week. But that being said, the Vikings played a lot of cover 3 defense.
Yeah, they did. And
looking at their secondary, I don't think they trusted corners. I think Xavier Rhodes, he's a great cornerback, but they just can't seem to play man-to-man coverage. And I don't think they trusted cornerbacks to play that. I mean, Harrison Smith, don't get me wrong, he's still one of the best, and I like Xavier Woods too.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good tandem to be with Harrison Smith in the backfield. But their corners can be had. And I think with Amari Cooper, you just saw him take advantage of one-on-one coverage. A better receiver against the cornerback. And
again, his route running is just on a different
impeccable
level. It really is just on a different level. And that team, Dallas, like, everyone knows I don't have any love lost for Dallas. It's hard to find something wrong with them right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on every cylinder, they are firing. And this is the time when you need to be firing. Come time when these games are coming down to crunch time, when teams are starting to get progressively better, this is the best time to do it. This is gearing up for playoff time. Like we always have been saying, this is a game of longevity. So Dallas has a real serious argument to clinch that division this year.
And the reason being Cooper Rush is because Dak had a lingering shoulder injury. Or I think this was a calf injury. Was this a calf injury this time around?
Thought it was his shoulder because he was dealing with a labral injury in the offseason.
You're right. It was that labrum injury. So he had to rest up his shoulder. And just think, he's just getting rest for the rest of the season.
He's just taking a week is what it's happening.
So he just needs some extra time. And They actually had their bye week before.
It's a beautiful thing.
So it was one of the... He has extra time, and they play the Broncos this upcoming week. So that's going to see if Dak is going to play, how he's going to look. And I think whenever he comes back, he's going to be firing.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to an ugly win. One of the ugliest wins I've seen. God damn. It was the Kansas City Chiefs against the New York Giants. My God. Tell me. How ugly was it? How ugly?
It's disappointing to watch the Chiefs play like this.
It is.
It really is. We all watch them as football fans, watching them as one of the purest forms of football for 2 years straight.
Yep.
And now this year, it's like, you don't belong here. You know, it's like, what are you doing? Patrick Mahomes has been completely found out. Their defense is non-existent. Their offensive line is getting worse. They just made a trade for an offensive lineman from the Jets, I believe, before the trade deadline happened as well. And it seems like Andy Reid is starting to lose control of that team. It seems like they're really no longer buying into Andy Reid because they more so expect that one-play bomb when that just can't happen anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill is dumb fast. Best way to do that is put 2 people on you.
Yep.
And then you have to dump it to Travis Kelce underneath. And what's going to happen when there's a bigger, better linebacker that's going to hit him all game and doesn't want the ball thrown to him?
Exactly. And we've actually talked about the Chiefs ad nauseum about like, how bad their defense is. And it's so bad that it's affecting their offense. And it's so ugly to see. But, man, the Giants, they just can't seem to catch a break to get wins.
No.
I got to say, though, they are losing close. If I guess that's somehow good, if that's a moral victory. But even still, they're a loss is a loss. And
Right.
as you said before, the
There's no
NFL
such thing as a moral victory.
exactly. They don't keep that on the records.
No.
So, with that being said, that was this past week 8, and we're just at the midpoint of the season. If it was a midpoint, but being that there's an extra game, we have 18 weeks. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, we're going to be looking forward onto some Week 9 matchups, and I want to start with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, and that is one of those divisional games, those division rivalry games that is just going to be so fun to watch. It's going to be physical, but before I start, Chris Palmer, your thoughts on that game?
Like I said, I love watching the competition come out of the AFC North. You know, the Bengals played a freaking hell of a game against the Jets. More so, hats off to the Jets for playing up to the caliber of the Bengals. Bengals didn't stop playing as hard as they play. They play as hard as that week in, week out. Hats off to the Jets. But you also got to remember, that Bengals defense let a backup throw for 400 yards on them. So, how well did that defense play? Not well at all.
No.
So, that defense is going to struggle this upcoming week because they're going up against the number 1 rush offense, and I think it was the number 5 pass offense.
Mm-hmm.
So, they know how to get the ball out. They know how to get the ball. They know how to spread the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm looking at Jesse Bates on the Bengals defense this week. I want to see who he's on. I could almost assume that he's really going to be on the side of Jarvis Landry or Tyler Higbee. They're both probably going to have some pretty insane games this week coming from the Browns. Is Baker playing this week?
Baker is expected to play this week.
Okay. Because he didn't throw a touchdown last week.
No, he didn't.
And I want him to show up this week. That's what I'm asking. Hopefully he'll show up this week. You know, injury aside, he hasn't thrown a touchdown in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this was the week coming back. Yeah, you got to play the Steelers. We all know you can throw touchdowns. We saw it earlier in the season. You threw 3, 4, 2. 2. Hurt. None.
Yep.
So, you aren't playing well anymore, Baker. So it's time that you start playing like everyone knows that you can play. You've gotten consistently better.
Mm-hmm.
You need to play better.
He does need to play better, but the Browns as a team need to play a lot better. But I gotta say, looking at Baker's stats against the Steelers, he was 20 for 31, just 225 yards, and that's it.
Yeah, no
and looking at that game, he was able to. It seemed a struggle for him to move the ball up and down the field, and I think part of it is that Steelers' defense is ferocious at the point of attack, and it's one of the best defenses in the league. But I think it's also the Browns are they're struggling to create plays and allow their playmakers to flourish because they're so dependent on the run game that the passing game is not where it needs to be. And you could see that Baker, what a lot of quarterbacks do when in doubt, they like to throw to their tight ends.
Yes.
And so then you see Njoku get a lot of reads. You see Higgins, who's pretty much like a tight end,
And Tyler Boyd.
And Tyler Boyd as well. Tyler Boyd is very good. So you see Joe Burrow move on to, he also depends on his tight ends as well. So these quarterbacks are going to be depending on their tight ends a little bit in this game. But I think in regards to the Browns, it is good to see Nick Chubb back in the game. Kareem Hunt is still a big loss because that was that two-headed hydra that they had last year and this year expected. But Nick Chubb is back, but he's not 100%. He only had 16 carries for 61 yards against the Steelers. And 61 yards against the Steelers, that's not too bad, but even still, it's not anywhere near for them to score on offense.
No, but they also have the running back to Ernest Johnson.
I was just about to mention him.
I want to keep him as a player to watch because he's pretty stout for backup running back, man. Like, he could almost earn a starting spot. You know, not in front of Kareem Hunt, of course. He's just too good. Or Nick Chubb. It's unfortunate that he has to play for the Browns. Put him anywhere else, he's a number one running back. You know, he's good.
He is really good.
So I'm going to put him on notice this week, and you guys keep a watch out for him.
He's one of those running backs that's good in tandem. And I think that he may need to have like a Nick Chubb in front of him in order to be successful, because he was the one that actually scored the touchdown for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can cash out. And it's good to see that they're able to create runs for them in order to cash out, but they can't just cash out on runs.
No, Baker needs to throw touchdowns.
They need to open up and spread the field. And especially against this Bengals defense. I thought this Bengals defense was pretty nice, but then I was actually just looking at the stats. It's like, no, they have nice players. They don't have a really cohesive unit. And one player that you and I were talking about earlier is Trey Hendrickson, who was a former Saint and now on the Bengals. And the Bengals have 21 sacks as a team so far this year throughout 8 games. Trey Hendrickson has 7.5 sacks.
It's a third of their defense.
One person has a third of their sack output as a team, which is crazy to think about, but the drop-off is immense.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, he's the best player on that unit for the Bengals, on that defensive line. On their linebacking core, Logan Wilson,
yes,
their middle linebacker.
Solid.
He's a very solid stud. He leads them with 40 tackles and 4 picks this year. And he's one of those hybrid middle linebackers that plays north, south, east, and west. So he's able to cover all parts of the field and start and stop on a dime in order to get to...
That's like a Brian Urlacher vibe.
Yeah.
You know, like reference to Brian Urlacher, how he could always back into the zones, keep his eyes out, really pan the flats, and then when he comes up and hits, he's one of the most physical guys I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Just like Micah Parsons.
Yep.
You know, one of the single most physical linebackers in the league right now.
Mm-hmm. And Logan Wilson, he's another player to keep an eye out for on this game. But he's the best linebacker on that unit. And from there, that drop-off is immense. And the secondary, their cornerbacks aren't too stellar, but they do have some good safeties in Von Bell and Jesse Bates. And those are 2 fast safeties that are able to, again, move north, south, east, and west very efficiently and read the zones and get to coverage. And pursuit, they have a very distinct pursuit that allows them to just hunt for the ball. They just sniff out the ball, and they just boom!
But again, to your point, them 2 are like the only ones on that team with pursuit.
Exactly.
Again, the drop-off is so immense. That's one of their biggest issues on that Cincinnati defense is that they give up. It looks like you literally watch people watch the ball runner run past them and they're running back for the huddle. It's like, the play is not over. What are you doing? You need to at least try. And I get it, you're a lineman, you're 280 pounds. You still ran a 40-yard dash. At least give them the 40. Give them the 40, and if they pinch you after that, you can't say nothing. I tried. 40 yards, I tried.
41, it's overtime.
40 yards, I tried. And then you bring it to a slow trot.
42, I'm going to need my salary bonus.
45, you're on option. Everyone knows that.
I do, but again, good players, but not a good unit.
But that also has to come from coaching.
Exactly.
You know, and discipline. You know, you look over in New England, and you see a rookie quarterback with an offensive line, but again, you said it yourself. They are a well-oiled machine, so their discipline is bar none.
Yep.
And then you look over in Cincinnati, where it's kind of in disarray for coaching, and
playing.
It's in disarray coachings-wise, and you're gonna find missteps everywhere.
Yeah.
You know,
and one thing that you said when we were watching the games together is the Bengals at the end, they showed who they are. Like, it's like, they're getting sloppy at the end. It's like, no. That's who they are.
Oh, you mean with all their like dumb penalties that really
undisciplined?
Yeah, just that's who they are as a franchise, and it shows it's just true to character.
Yeah.
You know, they can play 3/4 of a game, but as soon as something happens that doesn't go their way late in the game, all the stops come out. It's like they start playing dirty. They start doing stupid shit. They start going off sides. They're holding. They're doing unnecessary roughness. They're doing stupid things where it's that if you could just get rid of that, that would be the biggest source of fat trimming to happen in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get rid of that, you guys can actually start becoming a respectable team. And you and I even agreed that they were starting to change that energy. But now you see it starting to eke its way back again. It's like a cancer in Cincinnati.
It's definitely going. They definitely need to ride out whatever they're building. There's going to be highs and lows, but if they commit to what they're building, they can definitely benefit, especially with the Steelers, and that power dynamic is going to shift, especially when you guys get a new quarterback. That's going to change, and that's going to open up a little bit more. And the Ravens are not going to be as we're a good team, but we're flawed. We're a very flawed team. And one thing that I see in which I think is so crazy to think about for the Browns and the Bengals is the way they fight is kind of mirroring to how the Ravens and Steelers go about it, where the Steelers are a pass-oriented team they're starting to transition to a running team, but they're a pass-oriented team, and the Ravens are a run-oriented team, and then the pass is secondary. The Browns are that run-oriented team, and the Bengals are that pass-oriented team.
And if you look, other than Ben beating Ohio 50 times, we're not even going to go into. You guys have more or less given Cleveland their beatings as well.
Oh yeah,
and you've given Cincinnati their fair share of beatings as well.
They've doled it out to us plenty of times.
Right.
And that's why I hate them for it.
Well,
fuck the Bengals.
One day you're going to have to learn to bite that bullet and just respect them as an AFC division now.
I mean, I
respect them. No, you don't.
It
hurts to say that. No, you respect the players. You don't respect the team. You're in the same boat as me. The players there you want to see do well, not on the Bengals.
Burns.
He's been figured out, ladies and gentlemen.
No, you know what it is I respect what they're building.
Yes.
And I respect that they're going for it, but one thing that I do see is a crack in the foundation is they are not willing to run the ball. And that is one thing that I think is going to hurt them in the end is, although Joe Burrow can do it, and he can throw for over 300 yards a game because that's just what he does. He just throws over 300 yards a game. If they're not willing to run the ball, it doesn't matter how good Joe Burrow is. Defenses will figure him out. They will start double-teaming Jamar Chase and then force them to beat him with a second or third wide receiver and know that they're going to struggle moving the ball because they don't have an established run game. Joe Mixon only had 14 rushing attempts last week. So they don't even try to run the ball in Cincinnati.
Well, Joe Mixon's one of those running backs, to your point, that he's another one who's a tandem runner.
A two-way running back, yeah.
Yeah.
He is.
He's a tandem runner, means he needs someone else.
Oh, he does. Oh, absolutely.
That's what I mean.
That as well.
He's a tandem back.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to give him one other person,
the Ernest Johnson.
You put him in Cincy, and now you have those two running together. He has 16 times. And then you give the Ernest Johnson 16. That's 32. There's 32 runs.
But it's the willingness, though.
Right, but you're trying with Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't do it alone, just like Joe Burrow can't do it alone. So you're trying to even out the odds and ends, but at the end of the day, we got to give the stars the ball, and Joe Burrow's the star at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got to put the ball in your best player's hands.
Right, and at the end of the day, it's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and after that, it's probably Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
Or T. Higgins. That could be argued from the right Cincinnati Bengal fan.
Mm-hmm.
I am not.
Absolutely not. We are not. But with that being said, I want to move on to the Ravens playing the Minnesota Vikings. Now,
you can take this one.
Okay, well, Chris Paul, I want you to just tell our audience, you can see here my notes, what do I have written down for the Minnesota Vikings and Baltimore Ravens game?
Ladies and gentlemen, he's going straight off the cuff on this one. He's going from the heart as to what the fuck is going on with the Baltimore Ravens going into this week.
There is a lot to look forward to in this game. And being that the Ravens are coming off their bye, I think what the Vikings are going to do is they're going to exploit the weaknesses on the Ravens and see if we fixed up our holes on defense. Our defense has not been as good as we have needed it to be throughout the year. there have been several games where we're giving up 400 yards, 500 yards to teams, and it doesn't matter what we do on offense. If we're giving up 500 yards to a team, the Bengals, before going into the bye, then of course we're going to lose those games. But I know exactly what the Vikings are going to do. They're going to attack our second and third cornerbacks. Averett, and if Jimmy Smith is in the rotation, Jimmy Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But, and whoever would be the subsequent, Tavon Young. He's the, I guess, fourth string in that case.
He would have to be at that point.
But as big as it was to lose our entire running back core, I think the biggest injury to really affect the Ravens is Marcus Peters.
Yes.
Because teams are going after our second and third string cornerbacks, and Marlon Humphrey's great. And you put him on one-on-one coverage with their best receiver, whoever that is.
Adam Thielen.
In this case, Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen is not close.
But Justin Jefferson's going to be feasting.
Isn't he hurt?
No, I believe he's...
Or is he back?
He played last week.
Okay.
He was on that primetime game against Dallas. He was still playing.
Right. You're right.
But even still, Minnesota, like we talked about last week, Minnesota is one of those teams where if you double Thielen, do you want to single Justin Jefferson? Or if you want to double Jefferson, do you want to single Adam Thielen? And I think that the Vikings are going to be looking at a completely different defense than what they were going against the Cowboys. The Cowboys played a lot of zone defense. They played a lot of cover 3, cover 2 zone. And Kirk Cousins was able to find the holes, but he wasn't able to cash out in the red zone. It's tough to play zone defense. It's tough to go against zone defense in the red zone because the field is so condensed. And I think it's just going to be... They're not going to see that against the Ravens because we play man-to-man blitzing. We may have a safety in the backfield. We may not. You're
coming to hit the guy with the ball. That's what it is.
We're sending 5 guys at least half the time, and it's, can Kirk Cousins get the ball to the second or third option quick enough? I think not.
No.
Too, because not only... looking at their offensive line, I think the Ravens being that we're going to be rested, and Derek Wolfe is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
He was injured. That's a big return for the Ravens. So you're going to have Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, and Oweh on the line, and I like that. I like our pass rush and what we're building in that. Justin Houston.
Right.
Justin Houston is just in the backfield as well.
Right.
Left outside linebacker just. Yeah, he's there, and he's going to be rushing after the quarterback. And I like the Ravens going into this week because being that we're going to be rested, and although I did like that Minnesota defense, they played a lot of cover 3. Lamar can read defenses now, and he's able to find the holes in the zone. So I think this is going to be one of those games where Minnesota is going to dare Lamar to throw it, and I think he's going to throw it effectively in between the zone coverage.
And I hope to see that. I hope to see Lamar Jackson really seriously quiet all the naysayers about him being a throwing quarterback.
Running quarterback?
Yeah.
Who can't throw.
Well, the naysayers.
Yeah. Who say he can't throw.
Right, say he cannot throw the ball. That he is a running quarterback. He's a wide receiver. He's a wildcat.
Yeah.
He is. I was one of them when he first came into the league, because I wasn't a fan. I'm still not a big fan of his form when he throws the ball. I think it's ugly. I think he has one of the ugliest throwing stances in the game.
It is ugly.
He gets the ball out.
Yeah.
He gets the ball out. He gets to where it needs to be. And he's really wicked fast. So he is a dual threat, bar none. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's also one of the main arguments to really change the title of quarterback to playmaker. I heard that argument happen a couple weeks ago where they wanted to change the narrative that a quarterback doesn't have to stand in the pocket and throw. They can be your playmaker and still be considered your better quarterback in the league because of the stats they put up, i.e. Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
So I want to see him air the ball out more, but when it comes to that Minnesota defense, they're going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their pass rush is non-existent. It's non-existent, that pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
So if they give Lamar Jackson time to stand in the pocket and throw, he's going to attack everybody. He's going to attack that entire defense, and only Harrison Smith is going to be there to really defend, and he can't do it alone.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, where Minnesota struggled. Their cornerbacks struggled man-to-man, especially against Dallas. That's why Amari Cooper was able to really get that beautiful catch, because it was, if you look at the defender, he just was not defending the ball properly on man-to-man. He didn't know where the ball was, and he was lower than where he needed to be at the point of attack. So, as we were saying before, I don't think the Vikings are willing to go man-to-man against the Ravens, and I think that's why they kind of have to play zone, because they can't go man-to-man. And I think there's going to be a player to watch, and Rashad Bateman. He came back against the Chargers. He was healthy, and he was also healthy against the Bengals, but he didn't really see much of the field. He got, I think, like 2 catches or something like that. But he is going to be a key player for the Ravens going forward. He is the wide receiver that we are going to be attacking outside the numbers with, and I am excited to see that. And being that Minnesota has a difficult time going man-to-man, I think that it's a good game for him to get initiated into the league, to be like, hey, I'm here.
Like, here I am.
Here I am.
It's going to be definitely an interesting game to watch. He's definitely going to be a player to watch out for. I'm excited for that game personally. That's going to be a fun game to watch.
That is going to be a very fun game to watch. A lot of purple.
Yeah.
In a sea of purple.
Moving on.
But I want to move on to another game this week, and that is actually the Chargers and Philadelphia. Now, Philly.
Embarrassed.
They reminded me of the Ravens last week because they ran the ball. They were a run-oriented team. I want to throw the stat out to you, Chris Palmer. They had 4 rushers, okay? They had 46 rushing attempts, 236 yards rushing against the Lions, and 4 rushing touchdowns.
The statement game is what that was. That was sending a message that this is who we are as a team. We are a team that runs the ball with anybody and everybody who can produce yards. And honestly, I like it. You know, Philly is, again, that unorthodox team that just fights. So if they realize that one person isn't getting it done, we'll throw all of them. Use all of them. Fuck it. Use all of them. So that may be one of the more outlandish coaching schemes where it's just, give them everything. You know, it can heighten the risk for injuries. But, you know, Philly's going to do Philly things, and they're going to be the more unorthodox team in the league. So 4 rushes, 200-plus yards, and 4 touchdowns, that's pretty solid coming from Philly.
I like the way they want it. And I hope that they commit to the run going forward, because Jalen Hurts, I mean, he passed. He was only 9 for 14 with just 103 yards. He almost... He was 30 yards shy. He ran for 71 yards, so like he almost was 30 yards away from matching it. Yeah, so matching himself. But I mean, I gotta say, I like it that they're, again, starting to orient the run. And I think, again, it's the willingness to run the ball. And I think for the Chargers on the flip side, I love what I'm seeing with Austin Eckler. He needs more touches.
That's a monster.
He needs to, like, he only had 11 carries for 64 yards. He had a rushing touchdown. That rushing touchdown.
It wasn't just a rushing touchdown. That man moved 2 tons of man 4 yards forward and got a touchdown.
Yeah, but he also had 6 receptions for 60 yards. So he's, again, one of those two-way running backs that is able to not only catch the ball, but run it efficiently, and very efficiently, if I may say.
You see, I'm kind of I don't know how I feel about them trying to make him a two-way back. I respect it, but I feel like he's a north-south runner through and through. Like, I feel like with the anomaly that is Christian McCaffrey, being able to catch as well as he can when he's healthy, people are trying to make running backs go outside of their comfort zone being what they are, which is a one-way running back versus a two-way back. And they're trying to, force feed it more.
And just get a little too fancy.
Yeah, you see it happen with Ezekiel Elliott. He's being incorporated into their pass game. He's not a receiving halfback. Neither is Tony Pollard. You still see them catching passes, which is all fine and well when they need to be a last resort check down. But if they're the main premise as in your playbook as a receiver as well, you don't need that. Austin Eckler is one of the strongest running backs in the league by far, pound for pound, and it's not close.
He is one of those feisty running backs.
He just doesn't quit.
He is one of those running backs that has some pop to him. But I want to see them give him the ball more. I want to see him get at least 20 touches because he is a playmaker.
Yeah.
And things happen when good things happen when he gets the ball. And I hope that they incorporate him more within their offense. I like what Justin Herbert's doing. I like just seeing him go down the field, but you risk it. There's risk going down the field that often, and Justin Herbert, had that risk. He was picked off twice by the same player on New England, but
it all happened in the second half too.
And it was just one of those games where it's like, hey, you can move it, but you can only move it so far.
Yeah, but again, that's been the ongoing issue with the Chargers is come late in the game, there's just complete disarray.
Mm-hmm.
Unorthodox throws from Justin Herbert, undisciplined offensive line. The defense can't make a big stop when it's needed. Third and longs, you're being stopped. You're not making stops on third and long on defense on the flip side as well. So you're losing third down fights on both sides of the ball come late in the game. Your quarterback, star and playmaker is making mistakes. Your star running back can't get anywhere because your offensive line isn't getting anywhere except for backwards because you're causing penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys really need to clean up your 2-minute drill. Number one, the Chargers, especially if you want to win this game. Because Philly's going to fight for 4 quarters.
Yeah, they're going to be fighting.
So you give them that in the fourth quarter, they're going to hurt you. And Philly can hurt people, and you won't know what happened. This will be the upset of the week if that happens. They need to clean up their 4-minute fourth quarter game,
mm-hmm.
their 2-minute fourth quarter game. They need to clean up their offensive line. They need a lot of cleaning up to do. And again, they need a lot of fat trimming when it comes to their discipline. I like that the Chargers enjoy using a hard count. The offensive line doesn't enjoy it. So they need to learn it or they need to throw it out because they're almost force-feeding it at this point, and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
You see them try to they do it all the time. See Justin Herbert, he claps the ball before he snaps the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Claps his hands, then he goes one more time and the ball snaps. But if you see him come down, he does a fake clap, that's a hard count.
Yep.
And he can do it 2 to 3 different times, but by the third time, you can see multiple offensive linemen go off. So they're not ready for that. Justin Herbert is on a ball IQ level that is surpassing his offensive line, it seems. And that can be problematic when it comes to wanting to trick the defense, I feel. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to very much so clean up a lot of things and come in and play a full game if they want to beat Philly this week.
I agree 100% with that. I think, like you said, Philly is going to be fighting this game. And again, Philly's just one of those teams that they just fight. It doesn't matter who they're against. They could be against the Buccaneers,
right? And
they're going to fight, and they're going to scrap, and it's going to be, and the Chargers are going to need to play all 4 quarters if they're going to beat Philly.
See, I like to describe the Eagles as like a hangnail.
A hangnail?
A hangnail. You know it's there. You don't want to bother it, but as soon as you do something like that to aggravate it, it fucking hurts like a son of a bitch.
Are you speaking from experience?
I have has had hangnails in their life. So that's how I like to describe the Eagles. They're there, they hang out, you leave them alone, but as soon as you underestimate them, they're going to punch you in the mouth and it's going to hurt.
Yep.
So don't underestimate the Philadelphia Eagles this week. If the Chargers don't play a full game, this could wind up being a big upset.
This could be a big upset. But I want to move on to another interesting game this this week, and that is actually the Denver Broncos versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now,
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
the question is, Dak or no Dak?
Honestly, literally, I don't know if he's going to play, but with or without, they're the better team.
They are.
Rush is a good backup. He played great. 24 for 43, 25, 2 TDs and 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real good game for me, man. That's a full game.
Yeah.
So with or without, I feel they're the better team. Again, as the season goes on, their flaws are becoming harder and harder to find on that team. Dallas is on a head of steam, and they don't seem to want to stop. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying what's coming out of Dallas.
I like what, and I got to say, that's for everyone who doesn't know this. That's something to say when Chris Palmer saying it, because he does not like Dallas for a long time.
Everyone who knows me knows I like watching good football be played.
Yes,
I'm unbiased. I don't care who the team is. If they're playing well, I will not be afraid to tell them.
he never liked that star.
I never liked the Dallas Cowboys. I never liked the fan base. I'll be open about that. I think the fan base ruins the franchise, almost like Philly. Philly kind of does it more to themselves than anything, but we're not going to go there. But Dallas is playing really well.
They are playing really well, and like we were saying before, I like that they were able to hold Minnesota to 16 points. And Minnesota, again, they have a pretty good offense, and I think they have a better offense than they have in Denver. And Denver, I like Teddy Bridgewater is efficient, but he needs the script. He needs the script in order to play well. It seems that he has to play 6 to 8 play drives in order to score. Denver doesn't seem to be one of those teams that can get a cheap play and get a cheap touchdown and go up 7 very quickly. It seems that if there's a sense of urgency, it's not going to be established until later in the game. And that's why you kind of see Denver in a lot of close games too, because they're kind of similar to the Giants. They lose close, but they played not to lose,
right?
And rather play to win.
Yeah, they're one of those tough teams that do that. They play hard, but at the end of the day, it's like they're playing so they don't lose another hard game.
Yeah.
So if people do look at it as a loss, it's okay. That was a good loss for you.
Yeah.
That you guys played well, but you still lost. So they can start the argument of, we're playing better than our record shows. Almost like what the Chargers were doing the year prior. But when it comes to Denver, that's a lot more issues than there were for the Chargers.
Wait, where do they keep moral victories on the stat card?
Shut up. Shut up, dude. But Bridgewater, again, you and I, we spoke about it. He seems to be the guy in Denver for right now.
For now, yeah.
To me, he's like Fitzpatrick status. He seems to be a really good teammate. He has a real good energy on the field. Win or loss, he has a good energy with the team. He went 19 for 26, 213 in the touchdown, so he's not putting up bad numbers.
No, he's not.
He's efficient. And he's not turning the ball over.
Exactly.
Mr. 500 isn't turning the ball over.
That's Jameis Winston.
That's Jameis Winston. You're right. You're right.
But no, Teddy Bridgewater has always been an efficient quarterback. But I like what I'm seeing out of their running back tandem with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. They are playing very well as a good tandem back, but they give up yards, man. That Denver defense. If they're trying to be a very defensive oriented team, it's hard, especially when you just traded your best player to the Rams.
Pro Bowler Von Miller.
And so, even though we may question that Dak Prescott may or may not be playing, we know for a fact Von Miller is not playing.
He will not be there.
He will not be playing in that game. And so, with that being said, their defensive line is still good. But
it's not what it was.
It's not what it was, but they do have some good young players there that are physical and ferocious. Their D tackles and defensive ends are very young and very ferocious. I like seeing them. But their depth in the secondary, they give up a lot of yards. They give up a lot of passing yards. And that's why even Taylor Heineke was able to throw very efficiently against them. And, I mean, even just Lamar threw for 300 yards on them.
And honestly, again, hats off for Taylor Heineke playing another solid game. Just going to give that one.
Yeah, he's
he's
solid.
playing really solid right now.
Yeah.
He's more so, again, seems to be just like a placeholder, and he's just running through the system of Ron Rivera. But, he's not doing anything. He's not opening his mouth. He's playing his role, and he's doing what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. So, gotta give my hat off to him. One thing I don't like about Bridgewater is that he panics.
He does.
He panics. That man doesn't know what to do under any form of duress ever. As soon as he sees any type of pocket collapsing, which happens frequently in Denver, I'm not taking that away from him. He is not protected one bit in Denver. No. One of the worst offensive lines in the league, without a doubt. And that's without even looking at the rankings. You can just look and see that Denver's offensive line is atrocious. So he's protected, but at the same time, you can almost understand because of the injuries he's had to go through. The 2 terrible ACL tears in one career to still be playing. Yeah, you could have some timidness playing, but you can't. It's now becoming a detriment to your team. You have to at least throw the ball away versus taking a 7-yard loss because you don't want to scramble. You got to throw the ball away then. You got to make decisions that a quarterback makes. Mm-hmm. That's not really thinking about his body per se because you won't get hurt in that situation. So you can't go into that panic mode where it's, oh shit, my body. It's, okay, next play, throw it away. That's it. Mm-hmm. There were multiple times last week where he could have just thrown it away and he just took a sack. And that's what's going to lead you to getting hurt, mate. If you're panicking, trying to tense up, you're going to get hurt. And I don't want to see him get hurt again.
No, he's an efficient player, but like you said, he is just a bridge to wherever Denver is going to be choosing next year. That's why I think he only signed a 1-year contract. So he's going to be here for the year, and Denver's going to commit to him at least for this year. But we'll see what happens next year with Denver going forward. But any last thoughts on this Dallas-Denver game?
Yeah, again, keep an eye out for Micah Parsons on that Dallas defense.
And Trayvon Diggs.
Yes. I believe he was injured last week, but I think he's still scheduled to play. Mm-hmm. If he's not, though, that is a hole in Dallas if Trayvon Diggs isn't on the field.
Yeah.
And I want to see, if he does not play, I don't know if he's actually called for out. I'm pretty sure he's still in. I want to see how Dallas can adapt to that, if it's a thing. Because as of right now, he is one of those strongholds on that defense. Mm-hmm. He's the one that keeps that foundation together. If he comes out, will it crack that foundation?
It's a game of attrition. And these players, they know that. And they want to be like, hey, look, I want to rest my body so that we're good late when it counts.
In December.
And it's going to, these games now from basically here on out are going to mean that much more because it's going to imply not only your playoff implication, right, but also your standings in regards to the draft if you're one of the bottom tier teams. So whatever your team is, it matters.
Every game counts from here out. Especially now with that extended game and there's an extra wild card spot. Every game counts. Every
game counts. And I want to move on to the primetime game because that game is going to count big for the Tennessee Titans and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, again, this is going to be the first game for Tennessee without Derrick Henry leading the pack. And I don't believe Adrian Peterson is going to be starting, but it's going to take a little while for him to get into the starting role and get into the process of being a player. Because I think he's got to go through some formalities with the team or something like that. But you know who their backup is? I wanted to see if you know. Do you know their backup?
I don't. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it.
Jeremy McNichols.
No.
That's his name.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Really? Come on. Jeremy McNichols is on Tennessee?
Yeah.
How do you even get drafted?
Well, he was drafted, but then he basically never saw the field.
No, I'm asking how he got drafted. Really?
Jeremy McNichols.
Oh my God, that's ugly. That is an ugly.
But with that being said, think Tennessee is going to be as run-oriented as they would like to be, especially now with Derrick Henry being absent. Julio Jones, if they're going to be relying on their passing game, they got to lean on their receivers. Julio Jones is not the receiver to be leaning on this game because, yeah, he's playing, but he's still playing with that hamstring injury. He's not 100%. And so for Tennessee, A.J. Brown is kind of your guy. Like, he's going to have to be your guy this game to lean on. And I think it's a good question of for Ryan Tannehill, because I know you were saying before how Tennessee, would do a lot better with a different quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. I think for Ryan Tannehill on a primetime game against the fiercest competition you can go against, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Like we know that you don't have Derrick Henry. You can't lean on the run game, and it's going to be all you. I want to see what he's got. And I think Ryan Tannehill, he's a lot better quarterback than you give him credit for. He's like Teddy Bridgewater and Kirk Cousins. They're efficient quarterbacks. And he falls into that category of he's an efficient quarterback where he can get the ball to his receivers. He's not a playmaker. He's not by any means, but he's a general. And and at this point this is his 8th year in the league?
8 or 9,
this
something
is his
like that.
8th year in the league. So now he's a vet. He knows how to move the ball down the field. And there are some games where Ryan Tannehill he goes off some games.
I guess
we don't expect it. But with all that being said, I want to see what Ryan Tannehill's got. But with all that being said, I don't think that they're going to win, especially against that defense. Because you know why? You remember how we said how Von Miller is no longer on the Broncos?
Guess where he went, guys? He went to the Rams.
He went to the Rams.
But again, I think there might be some COVID protocol and stuff he has to go through before being eligible in the starting squad. I'm not particularly sure if he's going to be starting that game.
Mm-hmm.
But if he does, heaven help him.
I mean,
heaven help him. Heaven help him without Von Miller.
I was going to say, even if Von Miller's out, the fact that you're going to be having to double Aaron Donald every single time means that Leonard Floyd is going to get the one-on-one matchup. And Leonard
you don't
Floyd,
want to leave him one-on-one.
He has been having a really good year. He's one of those players that is another player on the defensive line that doesn't get a lot of recognition because Aaron Donald's such a big name. But Leonard Floyd on the Rams, that D-tackle, he is he's having a really good year so far.
Very strong bull rush.
He's a very strong bull rush.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a very strong defensive piece. But, man, the Rams they're just fierce, man. They're just on a whole nother level. And I think if Henry was in this game, it'd be a lot closer of a game than we think. But being that Henry's out, I think the Rams are going to really find ease with that Tennessee defense because that Tennessee defense is not good. Although, and again, they're one of those defenses where they're like Cincinnati, where they have good players. They're just not a really good
scheme.
Yeah, there's not a good unit. They have Kevin Byard. They have Bud Dupree.
Right.
But they don't have depth.
They don't have depth, and they don't have, again, it's the organization. It's just what it is. As an organization, you guys are undisciplined to really form and become a unit. One thing I do want to point out, though, from that Tennessee game, it was actually a couple of play sequences. It started as a 3rd and long for Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Interception by Indy. Started running. Forced fumble by Indy. Recovered by Tennessee, given to him for a first down. The next play, they threw for a touchdown. One of the most insane sequences of plays I have ever seen. I don't like the play call from the referee to overdo an interception, and give a 3rd and long back to a first down. You just reset the whole momentum of that entire drive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when an Indianapolis player had the ball in his hands after the pileup.
Mm-hmm.
How can personally? I don't know how you can see that. Somehow, some way, the Titans came away with that ball when there's literally an Indianapolis Colt walking around with the ball in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Ball around with it in his head. Titans ball. Titans ball. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see it.
One thing I do want to mention that I remember we saw this where the Colts needed to get down the field and score a touchdown, and in order for them to do that, they had to go through a big chunk play, and the Titans gave up a really bad pass interference at the end.
Yep.
In crunch time, when it mattered the most, they gave up that, and the Colts were just able to go from the goal line and score.
Yeah, just the poor discipline at the end.
Exactly, it's the poor discipline. I think Matt Stafford and the Rams, I think it's going to be one of those games that on prime time he's going to be like, watch this.
Yeah, he's going to crack his knuckles back and he's going to be like, guess what, guys? Everybody slept on me for 8 years, maybe 9 years in Detroit. So, buckle up. Or was it longer?
This would be his 12th year.
So he did 11 years in Detroit. An 11-year sentence in Detroit. So, yeah, he's going to crack his knuckles and he's going to be like, look at me, guys, again.
Oh, no, sorry, 13 because...
He did 13. So he did 12 years in Detroit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Even still, it's ridiculous.
He did too long in Detroit.
He was too long in Detroit, but, man, again, if Henry was in this game, it'd be a lot different of a game going into it. Titans, again, they had to shorten the field. They have to shorten the game when they're playing against a really high stellar offense. But I got to say, this is one of those games where I want to see what they got. I want to see what Tennessee's got.
Yeah, I do too. It's going to be a very interesting game. But again, I don't think that team has any sense or form as to trying to come away with that game. They're not going to go anywhere.
Any final thoughts on that game?
Just going to be one to watch. I really hope Von Miller plays.
I do want to see. Also, he's number 40 on the Rams. He's not number...
Yes, that is actually his college number. He played for, I believe it was Oklahoma he played for.
Oklahoma, yeah.
He played for Oklahoma, and he actually got the okay from a Los Angeles Ram great to run that number. An all-time Hall of Famer. I can't think of the name at the moment, but it was from the 1970s on the Rams, wore number 40. And he actually called and asked permission if I could wear your number. He said, yeah, sure, go for it.
That's awesome.
So, how about we start talking about some of the games for next week, this upcoming week, the entire slate. We give our predictions as to who's going to win.
Okay, so let's make some picks, guys. So we're ready to make some picks. Are you ready to make some picks?
Yeah, I'm going to throw some teams at you. You give me what you think, and then I'll answer with you.
Okay.
All right. For the first game, we got the New York Jets versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, that's the Thursday night game. I'm going to be taking the Colts on that one. Although I did like what I saw from Mike White, I don't think he's going to do it again. But I'm going with the Colts.
You know what? I kind of smell something here. I think I smell something brewing in Jersey. It might just be the smell of the Staten Island Ferry.
Oh my God!
But I'm gonna go with the Jets on this one. It's that whole Carson Wentz thing, man. I don't like.
You don't trust him.
I don't trust him.
I completely respect it.
And after a 400-yard game, how can you not trust? I don't know. It was really impressive to me. I want to see it again.
Yeah. I do want to see it again.
I like Chris Carter, the running back. He's a very solid running back.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, Baltimore.
I'm going with the Ravens on that one.
I can't help but not. I got to go with the Ravens as well.
Yep.
Las Vegas versus the Giants. No longer with Henry Ruggs.
Ooh. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Vegas on that one. Somehow Vegas has actually been playing better without Gruden. And you know what? I'm sorry. The Giants are just... I just don't trust them. Every time I try to pick them, or I think I should, they're like, no, they just don't. But they will fight. But I'm taking the Raiders.
I think I'm going to go with the Raiders as well. I have a soft spot. And again, I agree with you. They've been playing better.
So after Gruden.
Well, yeah, again, that toxic sludge that was in the locker room is now gone.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on to Denver and Dallas.
I'm taking Dallas. I think even without Dak, they're still the better team. The loss of Von Miller is huge for the Broncos, but Cooper Rush or Dak, it was a good win by Cooper Rush against the Vikings. But I'm going to go with Cowboys. Dak or Dakless. I'm taking him.
Yeah, Dak, no Dak. Dallas is for sure the better team. I'm going to go with Dallas as well. That defense is going to run all over that Denver offense. It's not going to be pretty for Denver. Moving on to Atlanta versus New Orleans.
You know what? I don't know if Trevor Simeon can do it a week, but I like what I saw out of that defense. That defense for New Orleans is playing very well. So I'm going to take New Orleans to win that game over Atlanta.
You see, this is one of those games where you look at the tail of the tape and both of these teams come out and you just don't know who's going to show up. It's the identical same teams. It's like, are you going to show up and you're going to screw up, or are you going to show up and you're going to play? But I feel like the Atlanta offense with Kyle Pitts, I think I smell something here as well.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go with Atlanta on this one, but it's not going to be a high-scoring affair.
No, I don't see it high scoring as well. But again, New Orleans is one of those 50-50 teams where they can
so is Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta. I don't know what to make out of Atlanta.
Just don't know what to make out of them.
No.
So we're going to move on to Houston and Miami.
Taking Miami to win this game. I just have no faith in Houston whatsoever. But I think this is one of those games that Miami should win. They should win this game.
Please. You see, I'm going to go with Miami, too. Miami has to win this game. They have to win this game to even remain in the conversation of a competent team.
I think if they lose this game, they will lose the locker room.
I agree with that completely. If they lose this game, the locker room is lost, and they lost the fans. The fans are lost, too. They lose this game, they lose the neighborhood. Is really what it is. So you gotta make something work.
Yep.
Buffalo versus Jacksonville.
How's that even a game? I'm taking Buffalo. What the hell?
You know, that shouldn't even be a scheduled game. That's like a professional team versus a high school team. It's not fair. Moving on to Cleveland and Cincinnati. Tough game to choose.
Again, we went back and forth on this, and in my mind, I'm going back and forth because I like Nick Chubb and like in that run game with Cleveland, but I also like what's happening with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Both teams are good, but both teams are flawed. I'm taking Cincinnati to win that game. If it comes down to Baker and Burrow, I trust Burrow more than I trust Baker.
You see, I'm a little bit opposite you, only because of that knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I love what's happening in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but the consistency of Baker Mayfield it's undeniable.
But he's still hurt with that
shoulder injury, and he's clearly playing hurt. It's obvious that he's playing hurt. That's why he hasn't thrown a touch. He didn't throw a touchdown last week. But that run game and that defense.
I do like Nick Chubb.
You know, that offensive line in Cincinnati, I don't know that they're going to be able to handle that whole defensive front for 4 quarters. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to have to go Cleveland on this one. You and I are split here.
Okay.
We're going to move on to New England and Carolina.
New England's been cooking, and I'm going to roll with them. I'm going to take New England and roll to roll Carolina because they've just been cooking. Mac Jones is looking comfortable. And as a rookie, to look that comfortable in that offense,
that quick, says something.
I like it. So I'm taking New England to win that game.
Yep, I'm going to go with you as well, New England. You know, I like Carolina, but there's no way they're going to get past how comfortable Mac Jones is and how good of a coach Bill Belichick is. It's going to be a sweep. It's going to be a roll for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So we're going to move on to the Chargers and the Eagles.
Oh, man.
Hard one.
This is a very hard one because I do like the Chargers, but I like the way Philly ran the ball on them. But do they commit to that? I don't know. And
that's a hard question.
That's the thing is because teams can show that they can run the ball. But do they stick with it? And we've been asking this question since we've started this.
Right.
And it's like, are teams willing to do it? I just feel I'm going to take the Chargers because I just feel a little bit more comfortable with the Chargers. Their defense is flawed, but so is Philly's. But I like their playmakers a lot more, especially with Austin Eckler. They got to give him more touches though. They gotta establish a ground game against Philly, but I'm going to take the Chargers to win this game. It's going to be one of those low-scoring, ugly affairs, I feel.
You see, I feel like this could go either way, and this is, again, a very hard one. If the Chargers don't come out and play a full game, this could be the upset of the week. Philly could just fight that much harder in the fourth quarter and make a win out of it, which wouldn't be that hard to watch if you enjoy watching hard-fought football.
Yeah.
Will it be ugly? At points, yes. From Philly's side, for a lot of it. I'm hoping you don't see the uglies come from the Chargers. They play a full game. It may not be a low-scoring affair on one side. They showed they're very capable of putting up 40 points at any given point. So, if they bring that Chargers to the table, you're going to see a 40-point outing from the Chargers and not many points from Philly.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm going to go with the Chargers as well, only in high hopes that they get it together this week at practice and they come out and they are the Chargers that we saw in the beginning of the season where it was just magic. Yes, they were flawed in the beginning of the season too. We pointed that out. They really have not fixed anything that we have said that they had holes in. And they're really becoming more gaping holes now. And that's more so why we're seeing them come off of Cloud 9. And now they're more so up middle of the road to lower high tier team. Which we kind of expected from them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game. Green Bay versus Kansas City. Funny enough, no Aaron Rodgers because he tested positive for COVID.
And I think it's because of that I'm going to change my pick to the Chiefs. Throughout the whole day, I was thinking, Green Bay is going to win this game. It's going to be no problem. I don't know what to expect from Jordan Love or rumored Blake Bortles if he does manage to go. I don't know, but I don't know what I'm getting out of Green Bay's offense without Aaron Rodgers. But with that, I'm going to take Kansas City in a bold thing, even though they've been so ugly and so flawed, and they have not been playing as well as they should.
See,
but I'm going with the safe pick.
This is tough, man. This is a tough one with no Rodgers on the field. I agree, but I don't know that I can trust that defense on Kansas City.
You can't.
You give up so many yards. It's like, how can
you can't trust that defense.
Anybody with any type of athletic ability will throw all over that defense. And Patrick Mahomes has been more than figured out by the less than stellar defenses, and Green Bay may not have the best defense, but
they're solid.
They are the middle of the road defense. So they can pick apart Kansas City, and the way to do that is leave them on the field for longer than 5 plays. After 5 plays, disarray starts.
Yep.
And by play 10, it's a fucking turnover. So I'm gonna go with Green Bay. I think
you talked yourself into it.
No, it's really just what's been running through my head since we started talking about it on the episode tonight. It's just I think Green Bay might be just the better team now.
I think you're right on that, but I do not trust that Chiefs defense at all. But I still trust Mahomes of that offense, even though again teams are forcing them to go down the field 8 to 10 play drives, and it's hard for them to do that because they're turning the ball over. And Patrick Mahomes actually has the most interceptions in the league at 10 interceptions right now. So,
that's going to be an interesting game.
I'll take the Chiefs. Yeah.
All right.
If they lose this game, I'm done taking the Chiefs.
Well, if last week showed anything, it was really terrible foreshadowing to them not being a playoff team.
They could very well play themselves out of it.
Correct. So the next game is Arizona and San Francisco.
San Francisco actually has the blueprint to beat Kyler Murray, and where it's having your ends kind of be along the parallel and just parallel with him in the field, but because you know he's not going to step up into the pocket because he's going to either run to his left or to his right. Mm-hmm. And so San Francisco has the formula, but Arizona is still the better team. And I'm going to go with Arizona. Coming off a bye week, coming off that emotional loss, They still play well. They still have great team chemistry. I'm still taking them to win. But it's still going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to go with Arizona again. I have no inclination to think that San Francisco is the better team by any way. The defense isn't as good as the defense on Arizona. The offense is nowhere near in comparison to Arizona's offense. I feel that team is coming off of a bye week with a nasty taste in their mouth from a game they should have won. They should have won that game. Call it what you want, miscommunication, bad route, good defensive play. That was a game Arizona should have won. They should still be undefeated.
I think people also sleep on the fact that they actually had to travel down the whole field in order to get to the goal line.
And they did it.
And they did it.
So
they can travel the whole length of the field at will.
At will. So, especially, and against the Green Bay defense, which is leagues above the San Francisco defense. Personally, I feel. But I'm going to go with Arizona as well. Moving on to Tennessee and the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams.
Yeah.
If Derrick Henry was in, it would be a whole different game. But Derrick Henry is not in. Therefore, I'm taking the Rams. I mean, I may have been taking them either way because they're really good and they're cooking up something really well. And I like what Sean McVay has built. And it's not building anymore. He's built it, and he's just kind of topping it off at this point with some extra whipped cream by adding Von Miller. But with that being said, I'm taking the Rams to win this game.
Well, it's hard not to look at the Rams roster and think Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
At this point in time, it's really hard not to. Through and through, offense, defense, I'm going to call it right now, the Rams are a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
And they're going against Tennessee, which is no more than a playoff team, with Derrick Henry. Without Derrick Henry, they're a sub-500 team. And that goes without saying. That's one of the more true locks of the game. Even with Derrick Henry, I don't see it as much of a competition for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Stafford is a much better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill will ever hope to be. Rams all the way. And now, for the final game, which is the Monday night game, Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Taking your Steelers, maybe, because I like Mike Tomlin's commitment to running the ball, and the Bears are struggling on offense. And no matter how good as we think that the Bears' defense is, their offense is the worst ranked in the league right now. It's the 32nd ranked offense in the league. And I like Justin Fields. I want him to do well, but he's not going to do well this year. And this is one of those games where you're up against that Steelers defense. Yeah.
Good luck.
You're going to have TJ Watt's knuckles imprinted in your forehead. So, with that being said, I'm taking the Steelers to win this game.
Yeah, I got to go with Pittsburgh on this one. We are the clear-cut better team. We're the better coach team. We're the more disciplined team. We are just the stronger team going into this week. So Pittsburgh is going to win this game, and I really don't think it's even going to be close.
It's going to be ugly.
So
it's going to have the Fugbies.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is our week. That is our weekly predictions. Hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to give a like, comment, subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to go into the comment bar. We are Let's Talk Football. I hope you guys are ready for another exciting week, because I know we are.
Oh, absolutely. And we hope you'll join us next week.
Hope you guys join us next week. Thank you guys very much.
See you then.